Welcome back to Defeating Wiki. I'm your host, Craig Olson. You guys, I'm super excited as once again we have another awesome guest. I am super excited to get to introduce Robert Paylor to you guys. Super nice guy, great, amazing story. So, Robert is a California native and proud graduate of UC Berkeley. Very smart guy. He came to Cal as an exceptional athlete, starting for the legendary Cal rugby team. All Robert's gonna be able to share his story in his own words, but as a Cal rugby player, he was competing for their 31st national championship. Wow, that's a lot of national
Mhm.
championships. And there was an incident that changed his life forever. Robert's response since then has spread inspiration across the globe with his positivity and unwavering determination. His story's been shared by major news outlets, including Sports Illustrated, People Magazine, and the San Francisco Chronicle, and his social media videos have amassed millions of views. I am super lucky to be able to be in the same kind of talking points as them, which is super cool. Robert's testimony is a portrait of courage and serves as living proof that when we have hope, discipline, and a strong team to support us, we are capable of achieving more than we ever thought possible. So, Robert, welcome to the show. I'm super excited to have you.
Craig, I'm honored. Thanks for having me. This is going to be fun.
Awesome. So, jumping right in, um, can you give a little background into your story that kind of helps listeners kind of understand the idea of inspiring through struggles?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a journey that I never saw myself going on, and it's been incredible. And it has allowed me to inspire. Those struggles I've gone through have given me that gift, and it all kind of started out playing sports. I'm a lifelong athlete. I mean, just my earliest memories are playing t-ball or trying to learn to shoot a basketball, stuff like that. And I played like kind of traditional big three American sports with football, baseball, and basketball. And I love them, but I really had a knack for contact. Pretty big guy.
Yeah.
I'm 6'5", and at like my playing weight for rugby, I was 245. Able to move a field for 80 minutes straight. I had a little bit of body to throw around, and I loved it in football, and I really saw a future there. So I go over to high school and I'm playing football, I'm playing basketball. I dropped off baseball. I just got too tired. And I'm like an optimistic guy, but I'm also like a measly 6'5". So we had a guy who was 6'10", another guy who was 6'8" on the grade above me on the varsity team. So I was like, I'm like in my sophomore year, very beginning, and I'm looking ahead and I'm thinking, okay, well, even if I make this, I'm going to make the JV team definitely, and I'll start. But then when I go into my junior year and I'm on varsity with these guys in front of me, even if I make the team, I don't think I'm going to get much time. And I was like, what do I do? And the rugby program over at the high school that I attended, Jesuit High School,
Okay.
is the most successful rugby program in America. I think they're at 10 national championships now.
Oh,
It's just incredible. And they've produced more, they're called Eagles, our national team. They've produced more national team members than any high school in North
okay.
America. They're sending players overseas, and they're quite a pipeline to get over to UC Berkeley, which has the most
Cool.
successful collegiate rugby program in America. So I was enticed by it. There's just this incredible culture and tradition of success over there. Kind of lends itself to my sensibilities as an athlete in rugby and football. And so I was thinking there's a lot of connections there. I'm going to give this a shot. And I just I fell in love with it.
That's
And I found out I was pretty good too.
nice.
I got MVP my first year playing, and my second and third year playing, we were runner up for being the national champion, which were horrible years, and that's kind of funny, when like number two in the nation is like a real bummer. but but I eventually got my shoulder tapped to go play for UC Berkeley,
That's awesome.
and so I'm coming over there, and it's like, it's kind of like big fish, small pond to getting thrown into the ocean. And I mean, everybody on that team was the best on their high school team. They were the captain, they were the MVP, they're the All American, and we're all competing for a spot. So, really had to level up my game. And my freshman year, I wasn't starting. I was kind of, I was learning, I was developing. And by my sophomore year, the position that I played called lock kind of opened up, and it was up for someone to raise their hand and take that position. And I put in a lot of work and I got the spot. So, as you said in your intro, we eventually go to be playing for our 31st national championship. And since then, this program's had 33 national championships.
Wow.
So you can look at like any sport at any level. And I think the only team that has more hardware than us is the Harlem Globetrotters,
Dang.
and their games are rigged. So we're doing okay. We're not playing the Washington Generals here. Like there's no script. And so to be starting as a sophomore on a team like this wasn't an easy or common thing to do. I mean, Craig, I am living out my dream at this moment. It's a really good time to be me. And I remember getting ready for this national championship game where, as an athlete, these are the moments you dream of,
Oh, yeah.
right? Because it's the legacy day. It's when you become a national champion, you are a national champion for the rest of your life. That's not something that you just
Yeah.
like celebrate for a day. That's
Yep.
something that you're remembered for. And I wanted to be a part of that. And so I remember, I got those butterflies in my stomach and I'm getting dressed. We have our like pregame chat. Nothing intense, very much like a been there, done that kind of approach for us because that's what it was. And I'm in the locker room, guys are getting taped up, lot of intensity in the room, as any athlete can recall before a
Yep.
really big game. And we're having a really good pregame warm up. Our opponent on this day is Arkansas State. Now, I'm not an American rugby historian, but I don't think they've ever won a national championship. I think they competed for one a few years before that and they lost. And like I said, we're going for number 31 here. We felt really confident going into this game, and we did an extensive film analysis and we knew their strengths and what to look out for, their weaknesses, and how we're going to exploit them. And it was very early on in this game that I'm competing in a mall, which, for those who don't know a lot about the sport of rugby, it's one of the bigger guys. We group up in a single unit and then we push to advance the ball. And the defense's job is come straight in and they try to stop us from pushing forward. So it's very much a boiler room. It's like where the big guys thrive. And I was a big guy. Like I said, 6'5", winning at 245 pounds. I'm on this field to move people, just
Yeah.
moving people that don't want to move. And we're 5 meters out from scoring. I'm like drooling on the field.
Right.
Let's go, bro. Trap this thing in. And as I'm doing that, the opposing players, they start making illegal moves, but the ref's not calling it. So 3 players enter in from the side, which are infractions in rugby, things you're not allowed to do, but the ref's not calling it. And then their number 8 comes in and he binds my head in a headlock. Now he's got my chin pinned down to my chest. And normally in rugby, that's an automatic yellow or red card. If you do that, if you so much as touch the head or neck, you get your card. That's 10 minutes. If there's any sort of like maliciousness behind it, if it's a high degree of danger, then it's a red card, and you're gone from the game permanently. 2 weeks suspension with further review
Wow.
upon
Okay.
that. So this is not something you mess around with, but the ref's not calling it. And I keep pushing forward. And as I'm doing that, there's another player who chops me down by my legs. So I start falling down. And this arm lock around my neck continues to improve. I can't get my head up. So I'm going down, I'm going forward. Top of my head hits the ground, but my body keeps going forward, and the pile lands on me. And my forehead slammed against my chest. It got pinned there. And I just felt this god awful crunch in my neck. And it was just like poof. It's like someone just cut the cord that connects your brain to the rest of your
Uh-huh.
body, because I was totally clear and conscious in my head, just as aware, just as conscious as I am right now in this conversation, but completely numb and motionless from my collarbone down.
Wow.
And in seconds, my thoughts are going wild because I had heard stories like this before.
Mhm.
And I think we all have, where you see someone on the field and they can't move anything and they can't feel anything. They've broken their neck. And you get the updates years later, and a lot of these folks don't really physically progress. It's the nature of these injuries. They're catastrophic and they are chronic. And I'm thinking that might be me. I'm questioning every single goal. I'm freaking out, thinking, am I ever going to be able to play rugby again? Am I going to be able to go back to school? Am I going to get my degree and walk across the stage and have a career and get married and have a family? Am I ever going to be able to feed myself ever again? Walk? I was just struggling to even breathe as my diaphragm was mostly paralyzed. Um, And it was like my life was just flashing in front of my eyes to where I saw a future where I'd probably just kind of sit in a room forever in a chair. My mom would spoon feed me. If I said, "Hey, my nose is itching, can you please itch it?"
Hmm.
Someone would have to do that for me. My mom's eventually going to die, and then I'm just going to kind of live the rest of my life alone. Keep in mind, I'm 20 years old, sophomore in college. Horrible.
Wow.
And I get brought over to the hospital. They cut my jersey off, which is sitting in the other room, actually stitched together now. And they do some medical imaging, MRI, CT scan, X-ray. Doctor comes back, he's got bad look on his face, and he says, very matter of fact, Robert, what happened to you is bad. It's really bad. And the reality is you'll never walk again. You will never move your hands. And we're going to do our best so that one day you can do something like pick up a piece of pizza and you can bring it to your face. And if you can do that, you made it. If you can just feed yourself, you beat all the odds. And he also recommends spinal fusion surgery, explaining that's my best chance at stability and recovery, but it is a potentially life-threatening surgery. So it's going to give me my best chance at a recovery, but I might not make it through it. A lot of important real estate right here. If something goes wrong, things get bad quick. So I'm just sitting here. I'm like, I woke up today thinking that this was going to be the best day of my life. And now I don't even know if this is going to be my last day.
Wow.
And in that moment, I didn't have a lot on my side. I didn't have a doctor saying that everything's going to be okay. I didn't have these signs of life showing up. I
Hmm.
didn't have statistics by any means, but I had that hope that I held on to. I had an athlete's mindset that I will give everything I can. And if my odds are of walking again are 1% or less, which they were, I am going to work in the category of the 1% or less hardest workers on the planet at this endeavor. And in the end of the day, that's all I can do. That's all I can control. And I decided to go into the surgery. And that began the greatest journey of my life where I had to fight for my life because I couldn't swallow and I couldn't breathe. I had pneumonia and I lost 60 pounds in a month. And my doctors told me I might not survive. It was like death was with me in that room in that hospital for about a month, just waiting for me to quit. And I go to this new hospital in Denver, Colorado, very different outlook. They say, "Yeah, Robert, what happened is terrible. And we don't know where you're going to progress from here. You might walk out of these doors one day and you very well might not, but we're going to give you everything that modern science and medicine has to optimize that recovery. And you've got the full strength, support, and belief of this team." And these people, they fueled that hope. They fueled that drive and support, that belief that I could throw everything I have at this and just get everything I can get out of it. And we went for it. I mean, it was 8 to 9 hours of rehab a day. It's the hardest I've ever worked at something in my life. And over the year I spent in that hospital, I went from no motion at all to where I could eventually twitch my finger and twitch my toe. And a year later, I got into my walker and I walked out of the hospital doors.
That's
And I got
that's
it's
so cool.
incredible,
That's
incredible. And I got back to UC Berkeley, and 2 years after my return, I graduated and I stood up on my feet and I received my diploma walking across the stage,
that's awesome.
thrusting that
Oh,
sheepskin
that's
into the
awesome.
air as hard as I could. It's like 7,000 people were screaming their butts off. And it led into this journey of inspirational speaking, sharing this journey, but more importantly, the tools that have helped me in overcoming this injury. Because I have this journey of physical paralysis, but we all have things that paralyze us mentally or emotionally. We all have something that holds us back. And I think these tools that have helped me in battling quadriplegia have helped me in those mental, emotional forms, and they can help others too. So heck of a journey this has been the last 8 years, but it's just given me so much. And as we just kind of come full circle here, that ability to inspire through those struggles, it's really turned into a gift that I can share with others.
That's awesome. That's so cool. And I love just how you were talking about, you kept that athlete mindset after you've
Mhm.
been told, it's the 1%, nothing really positive in that conversation with the
Yeah.
doctor. just how that mindset can make such a big impact in how you go through your journey. I
Huge.
remember my first wife, Rachel, when she got out of her brain surgery and they came and
Mhm.
said, oh, it's actually grade 4. You've got 15, 18 months max that you can survive. And, she kind of, her response, I mean, gut punch, but then all of a sudden she's
Mhm.
like, let's get started. Let's do this.
Yeah.
I mean, just that leads into what happens over the course of that journey. You're not going, well, I guess let's just do it. It's like, let's do that. Let's attack this and
Yeah.
let's basically make some history in ways that no one was expecting.
Yep.
That's so cool. So cool. Um, so you kind of went through and answered a lot of my questions that we were kind of going with this, which is awesome. That's great because I mean, I can feel your passion for what you're being able to do and inspire people through your story. It's so cool.
Yeah.
Was there someone specifically that kind of you used as a motivation to help you moving into, okay, I'm now been severely injured. I've been given this paralysis
Yeah.
diagnosis that could be for the rest of my life. Was there someone that helped you kind of push through in this journey that you leaned on throughout?
And we can totally go back to all those questions because I just scratched the surface. There's so much to draw into those. So let's do it. But this question here, huge because I needed support. And I mean, there was definitely the whole community. I mean, I had my mom sleep on a chair by my bedside for 2 months. And
Okay.
when I was battling pneumonia, I mean, she was pressing down on my lungs to get this fluid out so I could keep breathing. Because she said couldn't just sit there and watch her son die. And when I got back to Cal, I had my rugby team set up a whole spreadsheet of my entire schedule, and they're pushing me through the mean streets of
That's
Berkeley, getting up
awesome.
those hills, and just, I mean, absolutely incredible. But the single most inspiring person that I've met on this whole thing, and I continue to draw back to on a daily basis, is this kid named Talon. And it all kind of starts out where I used to coach youth rugby camps
Okay.
when I was playing rugby at Cal. I'd come back to Jesuit high school where I learned to play rugby in Sacramento. And age range is kind of like 10 to 14 years old, like middle school age. And there's one camper there, Talon. And he's one of the smaller kids out there on the field, but he just like plays with heart. He's kind of like a Rudy
That's
type, but
awesome.
everyone just
Yeah.
sort of roots for someone like that. And I remember I'd give him the ball and pick him up so he could go score. So like imagine me D1 6'5" athlete, like bobbing and weaving in between a
Yeah,
sea of 10-year-olds and
that's
putting a
awesome.
stiff arm on little Jimmy so Talon can go score. And we had this real bond. And it was around the time of my injury. It was about 5 days after that my high school was hosting a prayer service for me. And they're praying for my healing. They're praying for my strength. And my dad shows me a picture on his phone of someone who I cannot recognize, but he's obviously fighting for his life. And his hair was very white and thin. Body is just skin and bones. Skin is very pale. And my dad tells me this kid is Talon. And he was fighting stage 4 cancer, neuroblastoma on one of his kidneys. And it was a part of this caption or this picture that his mom wrote a caption, and it read along the lines of Talon wanted so badly to be at the prayer service today to pray for Robert, but he has to be in the hospital undergoing chemotherapy. And he's wearing a Jesuit rugby shirt that the team gifted him in his first round of chemo. And it's his goal that when he beats this cancer, he wants to go play rugby. And Robert inspired him to do that. And
Awesome.
the message closes with this sentence that's just seared into my soul, and it changed everything for me. And it said, "Stay strong and keep smiling, Robert. Your strength helps Talon stay strong too." I just cried. I cried because I realized in that moment that overcoming this injury isn't about me. It's about him. And it's about all those people who are inspired when I fight another day. And that's what's kept me going the last 8 years. It's not so that I can go from point A to point B on my feet. This is way too hard for it to be a selfish commitment. I would have given up. The reason I will never give up and I will either walk again or I'll die trying is because I'm not doing it for myself. And I do it for a person like him. And I do it for all those people who are inspired by this journey. And when I think of that selfless commitment, Talon just, he embodies it better than anyone I ever knew. And to finish his story and what happened with him, he fought that cancer like heck, and he beat it. I mean, he beat the stage
Awesome.
4 cancer. He went into remission, and then he had another tumor pop up on his spinal cord, and it paralyzed him from the waist down. Couldn't walk. Doctors like, you will never walk again. And this kid fights it. And I still post like daily walking videos for me,
Mm-hmm.
just kind of staying on the daily consistent grind. And he'd watch them and he'd get after it too. And the kid walked again.
That's awesome.
And
So
yeah, I mean,
cool.
amazing,
So
amazing.
cool.
And unfortunately it was about 4 years after his diagnosis that he did pass away. And it wasn't the cancer, it was his lungs collapsed under the radiation treatment to
Oh,
get to
mhm.
the tumor in the spine. It did too much damage to his lungs, and he unfortunately did pass away. But he died a winner, and he died a fighter, and his spirit lives on in me and so many other people that will try to live like he did, selflessly,
Yes.
and that never give up attitude, and not sitting around complaining. Because here, let's go back to that 5 days after my injury. Here he is, like 15-year-old kid, 16 maybe. He's battling stage 4 cancer. He should be at school. He should be playing sports. He should be enjoying himself, growing, building a foundation into a long life. Instead, he's in a hospital undergoing chemo, and he wasn't thinking about himself, and he wasn't praying for himself. He was praying for me and thinking about me. And I just think, what an incredible example to live by. I try to share his story every opportunity I can because he's inspired me more than everyone. And
So,
I hope that through this, he lives on through other people too, and inspires them.
man, that's awesome. I love just seeing correlations of like Rachel's journey and me
Mm,
being along with her, and my book Defeating the Unbeatable just kind of touches exactly what you were just mentioning there.
yeah.
In the end, death's gonna beat us all. But you get that and you live your life in spite of that, looking for the good, doing the things you want to do to make this world better. That is what defeating the unbeatable is right there. So that is
Yeah.
awesome, and I so appreciate you telling this talent story. That's awesome.
That's it. And I think you
So
just told
cool.
it great. It's like death is gonna get us all. But this kid, I can't remember exact age when he passed, 17 years old or something like that. He accomplished more in his young life than a lot of us do in 100 years.
Yes,
And I mean, I think that's what matters in one's life. And yeah, it's just an example for all of us to try to live by.
that's awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I want to go back to one question that I
Yeah.
feel is very interesting. So after you're sitting there lying on the field right after this
Mm,
injury and realizing that your path that you originally had all planned and you'd been thinking about prior to this game and everything has changed, at what point did you kind of realize I need to use this negative aspect of my life and turn it into something that I can in turn be able to inspire others with?
Yeah, it was a journey. It was definitely a progression. So first was just kind of like, I get this horrible news of you're never going to walk or move your hands again. Um, I'm battling pneumonia. I'm doing all these things. I had to kind of draw back on the foundation that I had built for myself before this injury even occurred. So like that's something I talk a lot about in my book, like building that foundation. So like don't wait for your life to become a challenge before you really start challenging yourself, so
Mhm.
that you have built that resilience within yourself to be able to respond constructively to what happens your way. I think it's encapsulated really well by the phrase of mental toughness, which on our Cal rugby team is defined as the ability to focus on the next most important thing. So, in a rugby context, that'd be like if you drop a ball and the other team gets it, instead of just like pounding your fist into the dirt and getting angry and like distracting yourself, you might miss the next play. The mentally tough thing to do is to put that in the past, focus on the next most important thing. What do I need to do and react to in this game that's going to help us win the game? And in a life context, like with what I was going through, it was okay, got a lot of uncontrollable factors here. And I need to make a decision on like a surgery that could really benefit my recovery, but could also be the end of my life. I'm
Mhm.
just trying to like, how do I keep moving forward? Like mental toughness. We don't have to look at the whole mountain of a task that's in front of us. Just focused on that first step. What's the next most important thing? What do I need to do right now? So that really helped me to be able to like block out emotions to where I had some time to really be able to think and reflect about what I was going to do with my life. And I've always really been encouraged to live selflessly, to live for others. And that's where purpose is really rooted. And we started a GoFundMe page pretty early on in my recovery. As you can imagine, breaking your neck is not a financially wise decision. It's expensive, like any medical catastrophe. And we needed help. So my best friend's mom set up a GoFundMe page to help pay for the rehabilitation expenses that were coming our way. And it was just amazed me how what an impact it left. And it put me in a financial position to have the resources I needed to be successful and to be able to put a full effort in. But it was those like messages of support that were so impactful. And I spent every day reading through those. My brother would hold the phone in front of me and we just scroll through messages. And it fueled me. But it was just amazing what people go through that you can't see on the surface, confiding in me how my journey and this fight was helping them
That's
overcome their challenges. And that was like the spark that showed this injury took a lot away from me, but it gave me a lot too. And I think much of it was in being able to help others overcome their challenges. So that started to plant the seeds. And then you have interactions like Talon, and then interactions like me being able to share this story, in larger scales and in speaking and now in authorship. And it's been this path that's been illuminated in front of me that I just wouldn't give away. I couldn't. It's so meaningful.
That's so awesome. So awesome.
Mhm.
So super awesome, great information. And I love how, once again, you're just using your platform now to move and help others. And it's amazing how so often in life we feel like we're kind of in our own little box. We've got our core people, and through that GoFundMe page, just like how we see that really we do have good in this world, that people want to be there for others, and it's truly remarkable. Unfortunate that it takes situations that are so big and dire to really see that impact, but it's such a great story of how communities, and then like you were talking about your teammates all coming together. I feel like sports is such a brotherhood, that team
Yeah.
building is just something that people that don't play sports, especially as you get older and you're in those higher level teams, and you get to see just how much it's not just, oh, we're teammates and that's it. Your
Yeah.
brother, your sisters, you are living life together through it all. And that's so cool that you got to experience that, even though it was through difficult times. So I
Yeah.
appreciate you sharing that. So on Defeating Weekly, our goal is to always try and give people a couple, 2 to 3 action steps that they can take and apply to their life today to
Uh-huh.
them take something away from this and better their lives as well. So do you kind of have a couple action steps that you feel have helped you, that you feel could help others in their daily walks?
Totally, totally. Yeah. So I'll say first, I got 15 for you in my book.
Ooh,
But we're gonna go a couple of the really hard hitting ones today. One is to have a mental diet. So we all
okay.
understand the physical diet, right? It's nasty in, nasty out, or
Oh,
if we eat well, our bodies perform better. And I think the same thing goes for our minds. So I think we need to have a real intentional audit of that when negativity creeps its way into our mindset, and then have things that we do to counteract that with positive information. So like for me, when I was in the hospital, that's me asking my brother to hold the phone in front of me, scrolling through GoFundMe messages. And we would also look up stories of people who have been in situations like mine before, to see the people who have done it, to give me that hope and fuel my motivation. And I think we all need to spend intentional time doing that, to in the beginning of the day, like have podcasts like this that you listen to that give you that positivity, books you're reading, people you're going to talk to, like just phoning a friend, little things like that that need to get baked into our routine, very intentionally giving ourselves that positivity so we can stay over that equilibrium line if anything does strike us in a negative fashion. So
Good.
mental diet, really important. Second thing I'll talk about is a phrase that I love using called compared to what. I think perspective is very important to intentionally utilize in our lives, not something that's just sort of like subconscious and it just like we just allow thoughts to hit us in
Uh-huh.
whatever way it just happens to be at that moment, but to really be intentional about perspective, to really treat it like a muscle in our lives. And I tried to do this by looking up stories of people who are going through hardship. I look at people who are going through really serious times in a cancer treatment. I look at people who are complete quadriplegics, veterans who are coming back from war without limbs, homeless people who are in really bad situations. But I look at them explain how they make their lives happen every day. And
Hmm.
it kind of makes me just want to think, remind me not to complain about anything ever again, because there are millions of people in this world who would rather be in our situation than their own. So
Yes.
that's the perspective I want us to use. And the quickest way I do that is that phrase, compared to what? So I'll just be like,
That's awesome.
I'm really tired, but compared to what? Or there's a lot that I'm going through, but compared to what? There's a lot that I can do, and there's a lot that I do have. I think that that's a really good phrase for us to always use, to not dismiss our challenges. I think it's really unhealthy if we just dismiss our challenges,
Sure.
but to put them into perspective, access that gratitude we should all have for our lives, and really focus on what we can do, not what we don't have.
That is awesome. That's
Yeah.
so good. It's so easy, like you were saying, like when you're in that moment, so many of us can just get stuck that this sucks. I'm
Yeah.
alone. This is the worst anyone can have. But then take even just that quick perspective of, well, I do have this going for me. It
Hmm.
might not be as big of a thing as what I'm struggling with, but there's people that have this, and this. I've got things going for me. So that compared to what that's awesome. I love that. That's so good. So
Yeah. It's a good tool to use. That's for sure.
great. Um, the other thing that I always try to do, quotes are such a big thing to me. Each year I
Mm,
create like a focus statement of the year for me that is like my one thing that I'm working on to make sure I stay on track for that year. Last
yeah.
year I had tools and knowledge only work with action. So that
Mm,
idea we have all the tools, all these skills, but so often we know these things, but then we do something else.
yeah. I like that.
So, do you have kind of a quote that you use as kind of one of your main driving forces that helps kind of remind you and keep you on track?
Yeah. My favorite quote is from Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning. Wonderful book. If you haven't read it, highly
Okay.
recommend. I did the audiobook. And so Victor, he was a very learned man. Yeah, a neurologist, like psychiatrist, smart guy, also a Holocaust survivor. And
Okay.
he survived Auschwitz. So he knows a thing or two about just the most extreme circumstances anybody could ever face. And Victor said, everything can be taken from a man, but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. And that just, it's a phrase that it gives me a lot of power in what feels like it should be a powerless situation.
Yes.
And when my circumstance warrants panic or negativity or complaint, I just kind of realized like we all have the freedom to choose our attitude. We don't have to feel happy and all like giddy to be
Mhm.
optimistic people, to just keep moving forward. And that
Yeah.
quote right there from Viktor Frankl, really hard hitting one. I draw upon it a lot, and I think everybody can learn a lot from Viktor.
That's so good. So good.
Mm.
Robert, I'm sure we could go on all day talking, and I really appreciate you taking the time to come on and share your story and have a great conversation. This was a lot of fun.
Mm.
Um, all the best to you. I so appreciate you taking your time. I know you're very busy. Where can people go to find your book and
Yeah.
maybe be able to learn more about your story?
Mhm.
Do you have some places that people can go for that?
Totally, totally. So book's coming out May 6th of this year. So that's going to be the 8 year anniversary of my injury. And it's going to be on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, pretty much everywhere you buy books online. And you can also go through my website, robertpaylor.com, for signed copies for those who want that. In terms of kind of just following along, I try to be active on social media, Instagram, X, Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok. I kind of got a monopoly on the name Robert Paylor. There's just not a lot of us out there. So if you look up Robert Paylor on any of those platforms, very easy to find. And yeah, I try to post daily rehab videos of me just kind of getting after it and put that positivity in people's feeds. So I'm really excited just to connect with anybody who's been inspired by this. I try to respond to every message I receive. So
That's,
it's always a joy
that's
for
so
me.
awesome. Well, Robert, once again, I appreciate you. All the best to you. For everyone listening, I hope you guys were inspired and ready to go out and do something. As always, I hope you guys have a great day and defeat the week.